planted, but still easy to identify. This is a river birch. You can tell by the bark. Shreddy, and even when it gets older, a little thicker trunk, there's still got kind of a shreddy, it's brownish. It's got, I can't see them real close here. It's got the little catkins. You can see them way at the top. It's getting ready for flowers up there. This here is a fir tree, balsam fir. Kind of flat needles. They don't quite sit in line as good as a hemlock would. And it's got the smooth silvery bark. And over there with smooth bark, kind of like a beech tree. That's an American holly. Easy to tell in winter because it's evergreen and got pointy leaves. Over here is an Arborvitae, also called a white cedar. And it's hiding under this pine tree here, so it's kind of gangly. And it doesn't have the two separate kinds of needles. That's a red cedar next to it, the bird nest. And you get the jaggier little needly stuff on the young foliage on the red cedar, but not on the white cedar. And this right here with the, should probably got to be an 18-inch diameter trunk with the vine going up it. Not native around here. That's a what are they called? Loblolly Pine. Very long needles. And this short little guy with the short needles, this is a red spruce. He's not that easy to distinguish from a Norway spruce at this size. Very short needles, kind of flat on the bottom. But I've seen Norway spruce kind of grow like that when they're young, and then they change as they get older. And somebody's been digging through the pine straw here. Not sure who or what. And this fuzzy thing that looks almost like poison ivy. It's not. I normally wouldn't mess with something fuzzy, but this is a Virginia creeper vine. Poison ivy is a little bit shaggier and a little bit hairier. And this is a white pine here. Needles in bundles of 5. Let's look closer look at the holly. You can see the berries. Only female trees have berries. And then you can see the jaggy leaves. But look at the pine cones and the needles on a white pine. They can have longer cones than this. These are pretty far open. Sometimes they're closed up more. I've seen them 6-8 inches long. But you know, bundles of 5, and you can kind of see the little white streaks on these that give them that the name white pine. This is a store-bought one that was planted out. It's a little bit more prominently white than some of the wild ones, but Loblolly Pine getting ready for spring. You can see getting ready to bloom out there. And this has its needles in bundles of 2. And looks an awful lot like pitch pine and red pine, which is related to. These trees were planted in about 1998 from little ugly Charlie Brown Christmas trees I brought up from southeastern Virginia. Gives you some perspective on how big a tree can grow in roughly 20 years. And this over here is a white spruce. It's got the, call it glaucus, that little bloom, kind of like you get on broccoli on the needles. Makes it kind of shiny. That's how it gets its name. Longer needles than a red spruce. Almost totally round. You can see a little bit of flatness on the bottom of that, but just about round. This is the slightly longer needled version called a White Hill spruce. Did a good job of catching a plastic bag up there. And I'm trying to find, you can see the cones over there. Not nearly as long as a Norway spruce would be. Not even as big as a blue spruce would be. This guy here is a gray birch. Looks like a paper bark, but kind of dirty, and the bark isn't as shreddy. And you can see the real strong, a little black mouths or horseshoes or whatever you want to call them at the branches here. I've seen really old ones that actually get more of a platier bark, but they usually don't live to get that big. A lot of these are planted in old strip mines and such. And you can see this year's flowers getting ready, along with last year's little cones full of seeds here. If you just, whoop, broke it off all the way. But yeah, they just fall apart and the wind gets them. This guy here is a paper birch. Grew him from seeds. You can see the bark is shreddier. A lot of deer damage there. Deer like anything about the size of a broomstick to rub their antlers on. And I'm not quite old enough to be getting flowers and seeds yet. You can see the dark branches and then the lighter colored bark on the trunk, and you can see how it kind of shreds and peels off, thus the name paper birch. And then right next door, falling over and growing cattywampus here, we have a Virginia pine or a scrub pine, and this guy's got little bundles of two, and they're kind of twisted. And we're near the northern part of its range. They don't like it muddy. Probably part of the reason why he fell over. It's kind of muddy here. And there's the male American holly hiding back there. And tends to keep their cones as they keep growing. These things here are a couple years old, and you can probably just pull out. These things are all kind of rotting away on the tree. And then you got younger cones here that haven't even opened yet, and soon starting to get the little male cones at the end here. These look like little buds at the moment. There's another gray birch, and then this guy on the end was actually done better as far as falling over, at least. I had two, the other one died, so yeah, damn jaggerbush. This guy here is a table mountain pine, and you can see, I'll try to zoom in on that. They've got extremely spiky cones. This guy came from seed from West Virginia. Very different cone, super spiky, bundles of two, longer and less twisted than the Virginia pine. And the tips of the Virginia pine, at least during the growing season, will be kind of white. These guys never get like that whiteness on the young branches. And this guy too, he's getting little buds here, and give it a couple months, they'll be real brilliant dark red. Really cool. And this should be a good close-up here of, this is an American hazelnut, and these are the flowers. They're getting ready for spring here. He had another tree fall on him, so part of why he's kind of close and easy to get at right now. And this guy right here, the bark just starting to go to its more mature, shreddy looking phase, is a butternut, and he should be having flowers out soon too, but all the bottom branches have gotten shaded out, so I don't see anything I can really see up there. And I've been semi-successfully trying to keep the deer away from this. Fairly smooth bark, big thorns. Some of them were at one time compound thorns. You can see a couple of them starting to branch on this right here. This is a honey locust. This big thick thing right here growing on this tree looks all woolly. That's poison ivy. If you're allergic, good thing to recognize it in the winter. This monster thorny thing here that's growing with the big arching canes, that's multiflora rose. Got fern fiddleheads here. I want to say off the top of my head those are sensitive fern, but I could be mistaken. I get my ferns mixed up still a little bit. And over here among the deer prints in the mud, we've got the flowers of skunk cabbage poking through. It's kind of warm today, but they will actually melt the snow around them. They can change their temperature a little bit. You can kind of see on the one there that they got like this little ball inside. You can just barely see it peeking out, but yeah, they'll get this big ball looking flower, and inside there this guy with the massively furrowed bark on the nests in them and dead branches hanging. That's a black spruce, or yeah, not black spruce, black locust. Black locusts are thorny when they're young. I don't know if I can get at a young branch here. These younger branches got some thorns on them, and then they end up growing this thick platy bark here. And there's my hand for comparison. You can see there are pretty big furrows in it. This is kind of medium size here. And you can see this vine out of there. You can kind of see the thorny little sucker shoot here. So they got thorns when they're little. There's another little branch here that's broken. The thorns when they're little, then the trunk gets like this. And over there, that's a black cherry. He's a little gray looking. And then when they get a little bit bigger, they look like, there's this guy that fell down and then this sucker shoot came off the root. You can see the whole gamut here, from the black or gray lenticle bark, and then it gets kind of platy here. This poor guy here with the bark like that. This is an ash tree trying to hang on. Ash borers got most of them. That's probably what happened to that part over there, and you can see the little holes there in the bark, so probably not too long to live.